Okay, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Mads. I am the co-chair of the YLYPs, along with my fellow co-chair, Emily. And we both represent NGO CSW, as well as the YLYP community. We are super excited because we are revamping, recreating the YLYP community into this networking opportunity and information sharing hub. So this is kind of our first event that will hopefully engage more youth into conversation and advocacy efforts. So yeah, we're super excited to have you. A few things before we start. We do have this. I'm sure some of you have already seen it through our newsletter and through the announcements that we've sent out. But we have a Google form to get involved in the YOYP Community Hub. And basically, you submit your Google form and we add you to this special email list that gives you updates, allows you to interact with youth and in our community. And we're hoping to spark conversation, hopefully create like some form of like a WhatsApp group or something like that, and see where it goes. And then we also have the CSW 70 volunteers form, which if you're interested and you're attending the NGO CSW 70 forum in New York City from March 9th through the 20th, I recommend you check out the forum. Volunteer with us for a few hours, get to hang out with us, and say hi in our office during the forum. We would love to connect. So I see Mariama has just sent that in the chat. I'll send it again in case you missed it. All right. And then our next meeting, every month we try to have a meeting. However, this next month, since the forum is coming around, we're going to do an in-person meeting. So on Monday, March 9th from 6:30 to 8:30. So the first day of the forum, we'll be doing a YLYP social. If you are not going to be attending the first week, that is okay. We are planning to also have a second week event. So be on the lookout for the confirmed time for that. I will send it out through the newsletter and through the YYP Community Hub. Um, and yeah, I think that's all of the announcements that I have. I will pass it over to Emily. Thank you all so much for being here again, and I'm super excited for the conversations.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. Welcome to our February Young Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program for NGO CSW. I'm also going to be passing it over to our esteemed speaker this morning. We're so delighted to be joined by Rita Muyambo, who is joining us from UN Women. She's a program specialist there focusing on youth. So, Rita, without further ado, please take us away.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you are. Quite excited to be in this space. This is my first time being in this space, and I'm seeing we've got more than 30 of you already on the call. So really, really excited to be with you. As I was introduced by Emily, my name is Rita Muyambo. I'm based in the Civil Society Division within UN Women. I manage the portfolio on youth engagement, including young women and adolescents. And my other portfolio is on faith partnerships. So part of the work that we do, I think our main engagement is around CSW. So we're really, really excited to be going into March, recognizing that the priority theme is extremely important. And there are a couple of processes that we do in terms of preparation for CSW. We have pre-engagements, and with that pre-engagements, I'll ask my colleague Aishka, an amazing young feminist, and I'm sure you will agree with me when she starts speaking as well. So a lot of engagement around pre-CSW itself. And then we have the in-person engagement during CSW, where we have an event. For example, for this coming CSW, we've got an event every single day and different engagements with different young feminists, and you are most welcome to most of those engagements. Then we also have a post CSW where now we start looking at implementation and advocacy. And so within that, before we even start, we do a 3-month training on CSW. So these are 3 modules. The first module is on understanding what is CSW. So we call it a CSW one-on-one. The second module is on understanding UN language. So when we look at a resolution, what do we call strong language? What is neutral language? What is weak language? So when you approach a member state, what language should you be using? When you're looking at a zero draft of the agreed conclusions, what language should you be red flagging to say this language is too weak? And how do you redline a zero draft for it to be acceptable to member states? So that is the second module. The third module is around advocacy and diplomacy. So you have understood this intergovernmental process, which is CSW. You now know the language that you can use when you look at some of these resolutions, agreed conclusions. How then do you use all that for your advocacy? So that is how the training goes. We're in the process of developing modules and we'll be training trainers who would like to take up or their other friends. So out of that, we of gathering recommendations and
Rita, it looks like you've
you,
cut out
Aisha.
here. Do you mind repeating
Shippers.
that really quick? I think you cut out for a little while.
Uh, sorry about that. Well, sorry, what was the last thing you had?
I think
Uh,
training trainers and then opening applications for anyone who wants to get
oh,
involved.
Oh, okay. Yes. So we were saying we are developing these modules, and these modules are being written by young feminists who attended the training. And Aishka is actually part of writing the module on the UN language. So after we've done that, I think it would be great if there's anyone who is interested in the training, we could also invite you and you become part of that training. It's free, so you don't pay anything. So over to you, Aishka.
Thank you so much, Rita. Hi, everyone. My name's Aishka. She, her. I'm a climate justice activist and intersectional feminist based in Dubai in the UAE. And I've had the great honor of working with Rita as well as the entire CSW 70 Youths team, which consists of young people and adolescents from across the world, covering all of the different regions, lived realities, and expertise. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to come in here and share the global youth and adolescent recommendations that we have been working on for this year. This is actually a legacy that we hold since 2021. We have been working on global youth and adolescent recommendations for quite a lot of years now, and every year is a learning experience for us. I still remember one of our first ever youth and adolescents recommendations had around 500 people included in the entire work of it. But for this year's youth and adolescent recommendations, we had consulted over 23,000 young people from across 75 countries, with about 2,000 written recommendations coming in to us. So I wanted to take a moment to quickly share a presentation. So I was wondering if you could give me access to screen share, if that's possible. Okay, I can screen share now. Thank you so much. Perfect. As I was saying, we have consulted over 23,000 youth and adolescents this year across 75 countries on the priority theme of access to justice. And from these recommendations, we got one clear message that is loud and clear, which is that as we address this priority theme, it is very important to see justice as not just a service, but rather it is a question of power redistribution and accountability as a whole. And so the way that young feminists have been approaching this whole situation is to really reframe what access to justice even mean. So access to justice is not really about courts alone or just legal resolutions or services alone, but it is to how we can have justice that is shaped by power, resources, and civic spaces. And to also look at systems that produce injustice. So we are looking into systems of patriarchy, systems of racism, systems of casteism, etc., because it's also a very systemic issue that blocks access to justice. And we need a more transformative approach that really looks at the root causes of where we are having blockages to access to justice. And so youth demands really that justice should deliver on the rights and lived realities of young people and adolescents across the world. And they're very clear that justice is not a service, but rather a structural and political framework. From the recommendations, there were a lot of demands that came through, and it would take me forever to go through all of them. So I'm going to be prioritizing and briefly sharing some of the key recommendations that came across. So the first one, of course, is around survivor-centered justice and bodily autonomy. Two key things that is, of course, under attack. We know that bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health and rights are core issues to justice because women and girls deserves to make their own choices and their own decisions over their own bodies. We're also seeing a lot of we're also seeing a lot of discriminatory laws coming up in regards to sexual and gender identities, in regards to family laws, and in regards to several other gender-based discriminatory laws. And there's a clear demand to repeal such discriminatory laws. We're also living in the era, unfortunately, where there is still child early forced marriages, female genital mutilations, and sexual and gender-based violence, especially the ones that is exacerbated in conflict and post-conflict situations. And there's a clear demand to ensure there's a criminalization of these issues while maintaining international human rights. Of course, the need for reparations and long-term support and not seeing justice as a one-off situation, but something that can be sustained over reparations and in terms of receiving the psychosocial and other support that is needed from survivors and victims. And a very strong accountability mechanism that clearly distinguishes rights holders and duty bearers and holds these duty bearers to account in terms of the different duties that they're supposed to deliver on, whether that's states, private sectors, government actors, UN entities, and other multi-stakeholders. And last but not the least, to really redirect resources back into the hands of young feminists and back into the hands of civil society as they are leading transformative solutions around access to justice on ground. The second aspect of our recommendations is really based on justice beyond borders. So looking into climate, technology, and conflict, three key sectors that we are seeing grow in the current day and age. First, of course, is climate injustice. We know that we cannot have access to justice under a climate crisis, and that climate injustice is also a justice failure, and we need accountability and remedies when it comes to climate justice. Secondly, it is technology. We're seeing so much more technology facilitated gender-based violence and harms, especially through AI, and other social technology factors. And young people are calling for binding accountability for tech companies and also looking at technology, state facilitated technology violence, such as internet shutdowns and digital blackouts, and calling for an end to that. And last but not the least is the issue of conflict. We're seeing conflicts rise in different parts of the world as we speak. And we know that justice cannot exist under militarization and war economies. We have trillions of dollars going into war economies every single year, when it could be going towards gender equality. We need to confront arms trade and the conflict profiteering mechanism. Last but not the least, it is to really kind of see youth and feminist movements as political actors and agents of change. We know that youth and feminist movements are independent political actors that are truly serving and leading innovative solutions on the ground. We know that their leadership is much needed in justice reforms, and it is very important to protect young feminist movements and youth in general from reprisals, from the active kind of violations that we're seeing on activists, journalists, women human rights defenders, and indigenous and land defenders. We should also increase their participation as which should be safe, as well as ensuring that their participation is meaningful, full, and effective in all decision making and processes. And last but not the least is to ensure that they are sustained and their work is sustained through flexible multi-year funding. You can see the entirety of our global youth and adolescent recommendations and the high-level priorities in English, French, and Spanish by scanning these QR codes. We have a wide era of topics that comes in from conflict, women, peace and security, and youth, peace and security, all the way towards climate justice, as well as also looking into care economies and precarious work, and so much more. It is really looking into the whole lens of access to justice from a holistic perspective, addressing systemic and root challenges that young people are facing in their day-to-day lives and in their lived realities. And it's really an honor for me to share the work that the youth, CSW 70 youth group have been doing for the past couple of months, honestly, to build in the build up to developing these recommendations. And so we really hope that these recommendations can be tools of advocacy that any young people can use that even goes beyond the doors of CSW 70, but in all of the day-to-day advocacy work and the on-the-ground mobilizations that each of us are doing in our own capacities, in our own networks and organizations. And we truly hope that this can be a living document, and honestly, a document that sets the ambition to the kind of agreed conclusions that we want to see come out of CSW 70. I'll stop my presentation there, and I'm also happy to stay around if there's any questions that come up. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and share these recommendations.
Thank you so much, Aishka, for sharing all that. I think that was a lot of work, and we are very appreciative of all those efforts and appreciating every single young person who also contributed to these recommendations. So I've just put in the chat some of the events that's going to take place, because I'm seeing we've gone over time in terms of the time we're allocated. So I'm not going to go into each and every event and how are we going to do it. I've just put it in there for you to have a look, and we'll be sending all the links for you to register and engage. Those who are coming to CSW, we look forward to meeting you on the 8th after the orientation if possible, but it would be great to meet you in person. So over to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Rita and Aishka, for your updates and for putting together that the youth recommendations. That's a huge undertaking, and it's such a exciting document to be able to share. And we thank you for sharing that here, and Rita for putting in all these events. There are many, many exciting events coming up, especially as we lead into CSW. So please do be on the lookout for those. And I can get those registration links and we'll get that sent out in our next newsletter so that everyone on the mail list gets those. Thank you again so much for being here, the both of you. At this time, we are going to move into our networking session of the event. So Mads, I believe, is going to put us into some breakout rooms, and then we will open it up to everyone, and you can get to know more about all the work that everyone's engaged in and what advocacy works best for you, the work that you're engaged in. So please, Mads, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are super excited for this part. This is the first time that we are splitting up into breakout rooms and doing the networking session. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. For those of you listening on YouTube, thank you for joining us.